Ubisoft has released 69 operators over the 8 years Siege has been out, all with their own unique gadgets and weaponry that can be used to counter each other. To be good at Siege, you need to understand how to go against each operator and how to deal with each of their complex gadgets. So in today's video, I'll be showing you how to counter every attacker in Rainbow Six Siege. Timestamps for every operator will be in the description, so if you want to learn how to counter one specific operator, just go click their timestamp down below. Starting off the video, we have Sledge. Sledge is probably the most basic operator in Siege. His gadget is a sledgehammer that can destroy soft surfaces, and he brings nades alongside it to help him destroy utility. Now, how can you counter a sledgehammer? Well, Sledge is typically picked for vertical play, meaning a lot of the time, Sledge will be making holes above the bomb site. Since he has to go within melee range, this opens him up to a well-placed nitro cell. Especially since he is a 3 armor, he will have a harder time getting away from the nitro cell if you can pull it off. You can pick operators like Valk or Pulse if you want to make this even easier, but they aren't at all necessary. Another way you can deal with the Sledge if you notice he doesn't drone much is Capcan. If you notice the enemies are getting aggressive and not droning much, Capcan can shut that right down. I've noticed that Sledge players seem to do this a lot, but this counter is less consistent and more on a player by player basis. For Thatcher, the best way to counter him is with a bandit or cade trick. Basically, this requires you to listen for a hard breach gadget being placed on a wall, and then you have to deploy your bandit battery or electric claw before they are able to get the wall open. Bandit tricking is definitely more consistent since his batteries activate much quicker, but both can work with a little practice. If you guys want a more in-depth guide on how to do this, leave a comment and I'll try and get around to making one. Another way to counter Thatcher though is bringing a ton of utility that he can't deal with. Bringing shields or mirror windows that you can play aggressively off of can actually allow you to kill Thatcher before he can get rid of your batteries. Moving on to Ashe, her main counter is Jaeger or Wamai. If you stack Jaeger ADSs or Wamai magnets in front of hard utility, Ashe will not be able to destroy that utility without the help of a teammate. This is because Ashe doesn't have any projectiles other than her breaching rounds. So she is basically screwed when faced with a nade denial operator. However, if you're worried about a purer form of Ashe, aka an Ashe rusher, well, traps will just about do the trick. Bringing a Capcan, Legion, or even Ella will shut down her ability to rush quickly, and it will warn your team of where she is. And another benefit of the traps is they can occasionally allow you to pick up a free kill on her. Now, how do you counter Thermite? Well, the simple trick is banning Thatcher. If the attackers don't have access to Thatcher, they will have a much harder time getting the wall open, especially if you decide to bandit or cade trick like I mentioned earlier. But another way to counter Thermite, depending on the bomb site, is explosives. If Thermite tries to go for a wall above a soft floor, you can easily nitro cell him from below. Also, on some bomb sites, you can shoot holes above a wall to impact his Thermite charges when he places them down. This will shut down any way for Thermite to get the wall open unless they kill the defenders with impacts. Thermite's counters may sound a little complicated, but Twitches are the exact opposite. Picking a mute or a Mozzie and placing them on doorways into the bomb site will completely shut down any way for her to enter. And it can also have the side benefit of giving your team a new drone. Outside of that, just watching important utility like mirror windows and watching for her drones is the only real other option, but it's quite effective. Now, I'm sure if you're watching this video, you're going to want to know how to counter one of the most annoying operators in the game, Montagne. Montagne, since his gadget allows him to be an indestructible drone for his team, can be a very annoying and difficult operator to deal with. The best way to get rid of him, though, is to bring operators like Goyo, Tachanka, or Smoke that can cut off his entry into the bomb site. Especially Goyo, since he can waste so much time. But another way to deal with Monty is to just bring the ultimate counter, Clash. Montagne will be able to do nothing against the class alone, and he will be forced to either leave or have teammates help him clear you out. And as long as you have some fellow defenders backing you up, you should have an easy time shutting down the attacker's plan. As for Glaz, he is a much easier operator to counter. He may not be all that strong, but on certain maps like Coastline, he can be extremely annoying to say the least. All you have to do to deal with him is pick Warden. If Glaz tries to look through his smoke, Warden can shut him down pretty easily by using his gadget, and he can do it all behind the safety of his deployable shield. This is a little risky, but it will work in your favor the majority of the time. And if you want something a little less risky, you can bring an aerial denial operator to shut down any smoke planting shenanigans. As soon as he throws a smoke into the bomb site, set off your aerial denial gadget. Anything from Vulcan canisters to Tachanka's Shuriken launcher can work here. These gadgets will cause them to be met with a rude awakening when they go for a plant. It's now time for me to discuss Fuze. Fuze is only really picked at low elo due to how easy he is to counter, But if you find yourself getting annoyed by an enemy Fuze player, there are a couple of ways you can deal with him. One is to commit to a heavy roam game above the bomb site. For a Fuze to effectively use his gadget, he must play vertically above the bomb site and use his cluster charges. But if your team is constantly harassing him by roaming, he's going to have a hard time using his gadget safely without being swung. However, if you want an easier, less risky way to deal with Fuze, a well-placed nitro cell can do the trick. Just wait for the sound of him deploying his gadget and then throw your nitro cell right under where you hear the audio and blow it. This will leave the Fuze in a world of hurt. As for IQ, she doesn't really have much of a counter due to her gadget just being a screen on her arm. But if you really feel the need to target counter IQ, picking a Solace can do the trick. A Solace can see IQ through walls when her gadget is on, allowing Solace to sneak up and catch IQ lacking. But don't get it twisted, IQ can also see Solace, so you need to be careful because if she notices you, she'll know you're coming. Now, I'm sure Blitz is an operator you all want to know how to counter. He can be annoying to go against, but don't let that get into your head. A great way to counter Blitz is surprisingly bringing a mute. If you set up jams on power positions where you or your teammates are playing, he won't be able to blind you with his shield, meaning that when he pushes you, he will be a sitting duck and an easy kill. But another way to counter him is to bring a lot of traps. Melusi, Legion, Capcan, or Fenrir will all make Blitz's job a lot harder by slowing him down or even getting him killed. But this isn't guaranteed to stop him. It might just slow him down a little bit, which is why this counter is a little less consistent than bringing Mute. Now, the next operator, Buck, is a little easier to deal with. He has the exact same counters as Sledge. You can bring operators like Valk or Pulse to Nitro Cell Buck from below when he goes to play vertically, or you can choose to go for a heavy roam. Since Buck, like Fuze, has to play vertically to get the most out of his gadget, roaming can slow this process or even completely stop Buck from playing vertically. Also, there is a chance that you can pick up a free kill on him while roaming, which is going to be huge. Okay, so you want to counter Blackbeard, right? Well, the best way to counter him is to use your utility to avoid having to peek whatever angle he is holding. Throwing impacts or explosives at him when he is playing on a window will do the trick. This is especially effective when he is holding a tight angle that you can't swing safely. However, this counter is inconsistent because you have to A, hit the impact grenade perfectly, and B, you have to rely on Blackbeard not shooting you before you get the impact off. Also, bringing traps or other forms of util to give you an advantage in the gunfights you have to take against him is a good idea as well. By doing this, you can easily break his shields or just give yourself an advantage in a gunfight, which is going to be huge when you can't shoot him in the head. Honestly though, Blackbeard is so bad that in 90% of situations, you can just kill him outright without having to bring operators to specifically counter him. Capitao is an operator that actually has very little counters. His crossbow bolts are able to pass by Jaeger ADSs with ease, which leaves you with only one operator to pick, Wamai. Wamai's magnets are able to catch his bolts with ease. So if you set them up on windows or doorways into the bomb site, it will make Capitao's job a lot harder. Another way to counter Capitao is to bring a warden and use your glasses to look through his smokes when he deploys them. This can allow you to shut down a potential smoke plant from the attackers, which is extremely common when they pick Capitao. But the more consistent counter is Wamai by a long shot because you're actually going to deny him from getting to use his smokes and fire altogether. As for Hibana, she is countered by the typical hard breach counters. Cade, Bandit, or Mute can all shut down Hibana from getting open what she wants to get open. Specifically, Cade tricking a hatch can really catch a Hibana off guard. But a more fun option is impact tricking. Just open a hole near the main hatch or make a hole above the main wall and wait for her to shoot her X-Kairos down. When you hear the sound of her X-Kairos going off, throw an impact above the wall or next to the hatch, and this will destroy the X-Kairos on the reinforced surface, forcing Hibana to use more. The main reason why this counter is so strong is because the attackers can do nothing about it. They either have to kill you or brute force their way through all your impacts. Either way, you will likely waste a lot of Hibana's time and utility. Jackal is another one of those operators that is extremely annoying to go against. His ability to scan footprints can easily shut down any roam you try to pull off. So why don't you just bring an operator that doesn't leave footprints? That's where Caveira comes in. Caveira has a unique ability when her gadget is on that causes her to leave no footprints at all. This means that you can catch Jackal with his pants down when he tries to use his goggles to track you down. However, this strategy can easily be shut down if the attackers are good droners. If you want a more consistent counter, Solace is a great choice. When Jackal is using his goggles, Solace can see him through walls. So you may not be able to stop Jackal from tracking you with Solace, but if you have wall hacks on him as well, I don't think it matters much. Picking Solace also has the added benefit of you being able to see any drones coming your way, meaning that you can counter pretty much anything the attackers try to throw at you. As for Ying, she is another extremely frustrating operator to go against. So I'm sure you're wondering how to shut down Ying before she can get your team killed. Well, the best operator is by far Jaeger. As you know, Jaeger's ADSs completely counter most projectiles in the game, and Ying's Candelas just so happen to be one of those projectiles. However, don't be fooled by this. This won't completely shut down Ying. If her teammates bring burn, aka flashbangs or smokes, they can deal with his ADSs easily. So if you want a more aggressive counter, Warden is the perfect guy for the job. His glasses allow him to tank any flashbangs and to look through smoke, which just so happens to be Ying's entire niche. If you wait for Ying to inevitably go for a plant or a rush, you can catch her and her team with their pants down and potentially pick up some free kills. However, this is risky because you'll have to get extremely aggressive to pull it off. But I find this counter is the most effective if you know a Ying is coming. Now, Zofia's counters are a little more straightforward. This is because her gadget is the KS79 grenade launcher that hurls impact grenades and stun grenades wherever she pulls the trigger, which these are projectiles, and the hardest counter to these projectiles are Jaeger and Wamai. These operators will help to protect your important utility from Zofia's wrath. But the biggest issue with Zofia is that she can easily burn these ADSs or magnets with her stuns. So the way to get rid of that is to bring a ton of hard utility. That way, Zofia doesn't have enough utility to deal with it all. Bringing in Azami, deployable shields, or Malusi gadgets can really burn a hole through a lot of Zofia's plans. This will ensure that later in the round, you will still have some of your utility left up, even after Zofia uses all of her gadget. Moving on to Dokkaebi, her gadget is a little trickier. Since it is a universal gadget, the only real way to get rid of it is to kill her or to run through all her calls. However, there are a few ways to counter her. Firstly, bringing a mute can do the trick. If you set up some jams around the bomb site, when Dokkaebi inevitably calls, you can walk into the radius and the call will immediately end. However, there are still some other aspects of Dokkaebi, like the fact that she shuts down cams for dead defenders and that she can hack your cameras. To counter the first issue, just bring trap operators. This allows you to be informed on where the attackers are coming from and without needing access to cameras. To counter the latter part of her gadget, the only way to do that is to shoot your teammates' phones when they die. Outside of that, there isn't much you can do. Dokkaebi is basically just guaranteed access to your cameras at some point in the round. When countering Finka, she has a very similar problem to Dokkaebi. Finka's ability is universal, meaning it can't be dealt with outside of just killing her, and additionally, her gadget is designed to heal her team and counter traps, so countering her can be kind of difficult. However, the main thing I would recommend is gadgets that can slow down a push. A lot of the time when the enemy team is picking a Finka, they are planning on playing aggressively, maybe with a Ying, Blitz, or other operators like it. So bringing operators like Fenrir, Malusi, or even Capcan can make this strategy ineffective. Also, Finka's gadget makes smokes canisters deal extra damage to the whole team. Picking smoke and using it to slow their aggression as well can be a huge deterrent. Countering Lion is a very similar story. For some reason, Ubisoft went through a phase around this time of making universal gadgets, and Lion is no different. His gadget is the E1D, which is a flying drone that when active will ping any moving defenders. Now to counter him, I would have said before to bring Vigil since he was able to bypass Lion's drone effectively. However, Ubisoft nerfed him for some reason and he can no longer do this. So the real way to counter him is to play in positions where his scans won't provide much value. If you play on power positions like Blue on Oregon or Rafters on Clubhouse and you use a shield or Kiba to protect yourself, Lion really can't do much. Sure, he can ping you, but what is the intel going to do? He can't do anything to get you out of that power position, and they already knew where you are in the first place, so his scan will relatively be ineffective. Now to counter Maverick, aggression is the key. Since Mav can burn through a wall, electrified or not, his gadget doesn't really have a counter, so killing him is the only option. Now, when I say that, I don't mean swinging out in the middle of Mav holes. What you should be doing is positioning yourself where you can pick up the free kill if Mav makes a mistake. But don't actively swing out on his holes, because then his team can potentially kill you. Outside of that, just let Mav waste his time opening the wall. There are so many other operators on the attack that could have opened the wall quicker, so just be happy that they chose to bring Maverick and waste all of their time opening the wall. Moving to Nomaad, she is an operator designed for shutting down a flank, or aggressive plays like runouts. And there are a couple of ways to deal with this. The first way, and my favorite way to deal with a team that brings Nomaad, is to bring Solace. Solace has the ability to sear air jabs through walls, allowing her to preemptively destroy air jabs with her impacts before running out or going on a flank. This will alert the attackers, but you have the added benefit of not being knocked over. But another thing you can pull off with Solace is shooting her air jabs through the floor, if the floor is this off surface, of course. This will allow you to flank the attackers much quieter than using an impact, and it can really catch the attackers off guard. But realistically, just find any way you can harass Nomaad's air jab so that the attackers are forced to watch the flank. Next up with Gridlock, she plays the same role as Nomad, but the best way to counter her is slightly different. The main way to counter Grid is getting aggressive as soon as she throws track stingers. Throwing an impact or shooting her tracks as soon as they are deployed and waiting to flank is the perfect setup, because if Grid doesn't throw another one down, you can just run up the flank later in the round. And additionally, instead of playing the safe way, you can just run up the flank as soon as Gridlock throws a track stinger. You can use the audio the track stingers make while deploying to cover the audio of you shooting some of them, allowing you to flank. However, this is a much more risky strategy, so I would just recommend harassing her so that way she's forced to watch the flank like Nomad. After Gridlock, we have Nokk. Nokk is an interesting operator to deal with because her whole gimmick is countering intel operators like Valk, Echo, and Maestro. So if you aren't relying on cameras, then you completely remove her power outright. This means picking operators like Ella, Legion, and Fenrir and relying on them to give you intel on the attacker's location is a perfect way to stop Nokk dead in her tracks. Another way to counter if you want to get a little aggressive is picking Solace. Solace can see Nokk when her ability is active, meaning that Solace can easily sneak up behind Nokk and surprise her. This can allow you to get an upper hand on a gunfight against Nokk, but me personally, I'd rather pick Traps any day of the week because they are more consistent. Now, Amaru's entire job is to catch you by surprise. So if you can shut down her ability to surprise you, you will remove Amaru's strongest aspect. Prepping windows by shooting out the glass is a great way to make the audio of Amaru's grappling hook much louder and obvious to you and your whole team. Also, just a frost can do the job as well. Placing frost mats under windows into the bomb site can basically guarantee a kill on Amaru if she tries to come in through the windows. As for Callie, she is a much easier operator to counter since she just sucks. If you find yourself against the Callie, just simply don't peek. Callie's entire job, like Glaz, is to bait outside to get defenders to swing her. Since her sniper can one-shot you, a gunfight against her just isn't worth it. Make Callie waste her time sitting outside, and then when she's forced inside by the round timer, any gunfight she tanks against you will be in your favor. Now, Iana is the exact opposite of Callie. Her entire job is to get aggressive on the defenders using the intel she gathers from her clones. The way to deal with this is to bring a Vigil, Mute, or Solace to shut down her drone so that she can't acquire the intel she needs to play aggressively. Outside of that, it is just going to come down to your gunfight skill to kill Iana, because eventually she's going to be forced to face check a room and you're gonna have to win the gunfight against her. As for Ace, he is by far the best hard breacher in the game, so naturally, you're going to want to deal with him somehow. The best way to do this is to impact trick. If the wall he is opening has room for holes above it, impact tricking is a perfect way to burn through his hard breach charges and to waste his time. But if you can't do that due to the map or bomb site, bandit tricking is another way to deny Ace from getting the wall. This will take an immense amount of skill, but if you can pull off the timing or just get lucky, you can easily win the round for your entire team. After Ace, we have an operator that doesn't really take much to counter, and that's Zero. The best way to deal with him is to listen out for his cameras, because they are extremely loud when deployed. So as long as you are calling out to your team the location of said audio, you can shoot his cameras before they are able to even get intel. However, if you find yourself struggling, you can pick Solace. She can see his cameras through walls and deal with them easily if absolutely necessary, but it's probably not worth picking an operator solely to counter Zero. Another operator's gadget that is loud as hell is Flores. However, relying on audio likely won't be enough to counter Flores outright. The best way to do this is to bring a mute and put his jams near all of your hard utility. So if Flores tries to blow up your deployable shield or Azami Kibas, he will be met with a static screen. Not bringing mute when you are met with a Flores is a genuine throw due to his sheer strength against Flores. Any other operator isn't really worth running to counter Flores because by far the best way to deal with him is mute. Now, Osa is another operator I'm sure a lot of you get annoyed by, and if you want to deal with her, you've come to the right place. The trick against Osa is to just use explosives. Waiting for Osa to deploy her shield and then hitting her with a juicy impact on the face or a nitro cell can chip away at her health as well as destroying her shields. Additionally, bringing a Tachanka or a smoke for when Osa inevitably tries to go for a plant behind her shield is a good idea. This will waste her time and will force her to either A, respect your utility and wait it out, or B, to get aggressive. Both will help you clear her from the cover of her shield. Speaking of cover, Sens brings a whole new meaning to covering their team. The best way to deal with their long smoke walls is to bring a Warden. Warden's glasses allows him to peek right through Sens' smoke without any consequences, allowing him to pick up some free frags on unsuspecting attackers. Additionally, if you really are against Warden for some reason, you can bring explosives. Any form of explosives will destroy Sens' smoke wall, allowing you to reveal the attacker's location and kill them. Now, to deal with the legendary Grim, the best way to go about this is to bring a Jaeger or a Wamai. But by bringing them together, Grim will have to burn through so much utility that he will likely run out of bees. This can really shut down a Grim's plans, especially if you set up your ADSs and magnets in the right spots. But if you don't feel like bringing two operators to counter him, I don't blame you. Just swinging Grim while he is launching his bees is also a great option. This will allow you to catch Grim with his pants down. He may be able to swap weapons faster now, but if he doesn't expect you to swing, that won't really matter. Now for the next operator, we have Brava. Brava is like the other two drone operators we've talked about in this video when it comes to counters. She is heavily countered by both Mute and Mozzie, with Mozzie specifically allowing the defense to use Brava's clutch drones against her team. This is by far the most fun way to counter Brava, but it is also the most obvious way to do it. The easiest and most effective way to counter Brava is just not bringing anything that is worthwhile for her to hack. If you avoid bringing a Maestro, Echo, Malusi, Aruni, and other operators in a similar vein, then there won't be any reason for the team to bring Brava. And if they do, they will be met with little value from her gadget, and they will probably end up just wasting their time. Now for the most recent and final attacker, we have Ramp. Ram is an interesting operator because her gadget has very little counters to it. By far the most consistent and easiest way to counter Ram is explosives. Impact grenades and nitro cells from below can easily do the trick to get rid of Ram's tanks. However, if you don't have explosives, just roaming upstairs where she wants to play vertically is enough to put a damper on her day. Just don't get caught off guard by the loud noise her drones make. Anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. As you can tell, I put a lot of effort into this video. So if this video helped you out at all, please consider subscribing and follow me on Twitter if you don't want to miss the next upload. If you want to see more of me, go follow me on Twitch because I'll be going live roughly 6 hours after this video goes up, and I'm sure you won't want to miss it. Also, if you want to see yourself in new videos or streams, join up in the Discord. I want to get active over there, so don't be afraid to join up. I'm sure we'll have some amazing fun. Now, if you want to watch another video just like this one, I'll be popping up on your screen right now where I talk about how to set up every bomb site in Rainbow Six Siege. I'll see you next time, friends, and peace.